everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tuber. Welcome back. This is your fourth Matlock episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. I do apologize for this episode being, this review being late. I did promise myself to try and get it out by the weekend, but personal things took priority, so I was not able to watch and properly review the show in time. So I do apologize for that. At least you get two Matlock reviews this week, so what are the odds? I do apologize if in the next week or two my voice is very limited. We have officially hit the cold point here where I live. And for some real weird reason, either 1 year I would lose my voice totally, or the other year would be my voice would be greatly restricted. And I'm hoping for another greatly restricted. Usually it's an on and off thing. So just in case of like we get to later into the season and I purposely can't do a review because I can't speak. So just a bit of heads up on that. But this week on Matlock, I would say probably this was most likely, of the four now, I think it's my least favorite, not because it's bad. Still think this is a great episode. I feel like if you're constantly putting out banger after banger after banger, that you're gonna have those episodes where like we're not middling, but we're kind of like it's a slow approach. They're taking a different way to kind of get to the point of the matter here. I would say a couple things in this episode I don't entirely agree with, maybe because there wasn't proper setup for it. But I also would commend them for this being a different sort of episode, this kind of reminding us, that it's not always about the victories. There's always a bunch of losses that we never really shine the light on. And as well as, again, they're just tempering with our expectation, and that's one of the things I love about the show is that, you never know really what the next thing is going to be. And I commend them for that because, again, once again, they do the tradition. It's now 4 weeks in a row where, I'm genuinely surprised. It assumes things are simplistic and we're following, kind of a chord to chord, but actually not really. It was actually part of a even more masterful plan that, again, my small brain barely comprehends. So for me, I'm like, damn, this is really, really cool. But again, it isn't without its faults, a couple of them. And but I still do love the fact they're still playing with expectations that don't get comfortable believing in one thing because you never know. The next thing could be something completely different. And that's one of the many reasons why I'm slowly starting to love the show even more so. That also we'll still have to wait till season 2 comes out in the future, but this could potentially have the credentials to enter my top 10 of all time. And just how things are going, which I'm very excited for. But with that all being said, let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this episode of Matlock. So we begin bright and early at Maddie's home. Her and her husband are looking for their grandson, who has mysteriously disappeared, which I'm thinking to myself, well, it's too soon to do a kidnapping episode if someone really knows about it. That's more like a second half of the season type of thing. But no, it turns out he's just sleeping in Maddie's room as he's been doing some late night cramming sessions on Olympia's laptop, trying to find any sort of big red herring that they could use against the case with her. Thankfully, he's finding everything. Obviously, he's a bit, exhausted and hasn't been doing his homework lately. And I will say the sudden turn of the husband just getting mad and berated with Matlock is a bit weird because the last 4 episodes kind of set him up as just a very compassionate, loving husband. And again, being a partner myself, there are moments where you will get annoyed. Obviously the longer you've been in a relationship, not every day is going to be peachy clean. There's going to definitely be moments. But it felt kind of sudden, again, maybe if we had an episode in between where he kind of gets slightly annoyed, maybe Maddie kind of maybe extending herself too much with the firm or something along that matter. It just felt like it was a sudden jump between where we were last week, where he was very compassionate, very loving, very understanding, very supportive of this team. And then all of a sudden he just goes suddenly berates off. And again, they did mention a line where it's been a week since that episode, the last episode, and he's been more focused on trying to help Maddie with the whole let's expose the firm rather than doing, his homework, doing kid stuff. And it's become maybe a bit too much for him. And that's understandable. Again, there's going to be stress and wears, the longer you do this sort of undercover shit, even if you're not directly part of it, because you kind of just want life to go back to normal. Someone live a traditional day-to-day, I'm retired with my wife and just, we have a grandkid to raise. But it becomes a little sad, and we're like, again, this would have made sense had we gotten an extra episode where we would have seen that decline. The sudden jump for me just doesn't do it. Like, I do understand it, but it doesn't really sell me fully on everything, and that, I think that would be my only main critique for the episode about it, especially, I would assume that they played with the theme of the episode where the case of the week is Olympia representing this widower who just lost his wife not too long ago, for suing the apartment condominium for neglection of the property. And I'm honestly surprised like how many we've gotten so far. Like, we're like I think we're 3 for 4. Where like we've had like Olympia have these cases long in the background, and then all of a sudden they're just ready for prime time. They're ready to be cracked open and to put an end to it. And I guess they were playing with that, considering the fact, Maddie is, again, trying to play this whittler, and they just assume, oh, well, she's a whittler, he's a whittler. Maybe they would get along a little bit well. So I'm like, again, testing Maddie of like, will she cross those lines? And again, that's not what the show's about. But I do understand they really do want to play with that notion of like, maybe Maddie will get sidetracked in her lies. Where again, at the end of the day, this is all her trying to lie her way through the firm to get what she wants, to get these documents, to get the red herring she needs to put one of these people away. And I commend that. I do commend that. I think that was a very interesting way of designing the episode, but at the cost of her husband's character. The sudden turn, it just didn't do it for me. So we move on back to the firm where Maddie is getting berated a bit by Olympia, not from a negative way, but more like Olympia's like playing small talk, trying to be friendly with her. And even though, again, like same with Maddie, we're like, we've only seen her for 3 episodes. We already know this is not her characteristic. So like there definitely is something more at play here. She does admit, yeah, well, we're going to be handling this case this week for Whittler, and he's been a little bit reserved. So you being a Whittler may be a little bit more of like, he'll more appeal to you because you both are in the same the same camp. And Maddie does agree, and also the other thing is that I forgot to mention when we were back at the house was that the grandson managed to find these redacted documents that were while they were redacted in Olympia's computer. There's a possibility they're probably still safe, tucked away in the main storage file. So Maddie needs to get into the documents room, which is a very restrictive area. Even if she's been working there for a month now, it's still very much, you need permission, you need the authority to be in there. And so Maddie uses this opportunity to get into the documents room, not only to get the matters for the case, but also to get what she needs for her own endeavor. Then I want to say we get a scene between Olympia and Elijah. There's still some tension from their quote unquote breakup from last week. And Elijah is definitely playing the whole, like, I'm not mad. It's just business. And it's like, yeah, you're definitely using your business to get a little payback on her. Definitely so. Senior calls a board meeting because apparently Olympia's case is about to be in the zone that this is a conflict of interest, because apparently the firm just happenly decided to take on the corporation that Olympia's client wants to sue. So now, because Olympia is just a regular partner, she basically is going to be told you need to basically tell them you got to go to someone else, because we can't represent them. But they do bring up this terminology called the firewall, which basically in this sort of event where one partner happens to represent a client, and then the larger firm decides to take on the enemy of the client, then there is a matter where there can be some divisional aspects to prevent cross-contamination of the case, so that both clients will have a fair trial, fair representation. Obviously, there's a bit of schmirking going around between the main four with Senior, Olympia, Julia, and Elijah. There's a bit of schmirking going around, especially that Olympia is the outlier here because she is representing the guy and everyone else is representing the firm. So there's a bit of a bit of competition here. And again, it riles up the intro where even the people who are supposed to be on the same team is kind of against each other. So I do commend that for that. The other Maddie, Sarah, and Billy are watching over the way, making fun of things, trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Maddie uses this as an excuse to go to the documents room. There was a scene earlier where Sarah kind of, gets into Maddie's favor, I have been here for more than a year. She barely acknowledges me as an equal, and yet you've been here for a month, and she's trying to kiss up to you. So yeah, Sarah's kind of pissed. She's definitely aware of the fact that Maddie's getting a bit of special privilege, a bit of like, what does Maddie have that she doesn't have? And there's a lot of reasons. There really is a lot of reasons, but we're not going to get into that today. Maddie heads downstairs to the documents room, even though she has the permission from Olympia. They have switched over to a new appointment system. Just ironically, around the same time that Matlock started the firm, they changed the policy where like now it's appointment based only. So I am burning my pants with my hot tea, so I'm really holding my screens right now. Maddie tries to play the whole pity card a little bit, but however, the person who actually runs the whole floor shows up, basically not giving a flying fuck about what her case is, and she's like, yeah, you know what, well, too bad, you need to make an appointment. So sadly, Maddie does make an appointment for 20 minutes, but however, because of the expenditure of the case, they have to go right now and to talk to their client. So they head over there. He's not a recluse, but he definitely is a little bit closed off, definitely a bit concerned, a little bit like lost on where things are going. He's obviously thinking the worst right now with everything. With everything going on. Sadly, these three do nothing to really help him out. They send in Maddie, and Maddie, again, using her energy as losing her daughter to the coincided of like losing her husband, definitely manages to help her and kind of gain some brownie point, gain some actual, traction with the guy. And Olivia decides, you know what, you two, you're good on your own. We're going to go do something else. Which I'm like, damn. Y'all just pawned off this case to her, basically. Maddie bonds with him a little bit more. They talk about something about his wife where there was a tradition they had where like he would like handcraft these bird like material figures. I'm not really sure what the material was named called. There was a couple moments between them where like the closeness, kind of like the bonding sort of thing. And again, us knowing that Maddie is technically still married, it's like, what is she really gonna do? Like again, like she's got to maintain the cover that she's single by a widow standards, but at the same time she can't betray her marriage. But thankfully it doesn't come to that. Maddie gets the blessing from him to go into one of his private rooms, which is basically a hoarder's den. They look around and they do find some water damage and then later on mold damage. So with the what's the name of the people? The inspectors come in. They actually give them the firing bullet that they need for Olympia and their team to go forward against, going against Senior in the firm, basically trying to get a much more better deal for him. And this is the smoking gun that they do need. There's a bit of tension between Billy and Sarah, but not in the way you expect it to be. Apparently, Billy's just kind of, not happy with Sarah, like the fact they're supposed to be friends, and Sarah barely knows anything about him besides some common facts, even though they've been like kind of close to each other for more than a year. And Sarah, being Sarah, just mostly is just like kind of like shooing that out, like not really caring much about it. So I believe from that point we all reconvene back in the firm where Olympia does get mad at Elijah because the client did receive a call from the firm that there is going to be a potential, there's going to be a conflict of interest, so there is a possibility he may lose representation with them. And she does get mad at him because, again, she had 4 hours to get as much done as possible before the firewall goes into place, and he didn't ignore it really, but he basically used it for his advantage for the main team. And again, he doesn't deny it, but he does definitely say like I am focusing on the firm's best interests. It is a $10 million client, so we definitely need this money. So from then on, I believe we also go back to no, we're not there quite just yet. I'm trying to remember exactly where we are. I think at a certain point, yeah, Maddie goes home. And also, another thing I forgot was that back in the first scene, Maddie did promise her husband that she would not utilize their grandson anymore for this matter. Like, she'll just do everything in-house. But at some point during the day, she did text him for a little bit of assistance. And he did get pissed about it, considering the fact that, she promised him she wasn't going to do it, and then she doesn't. And they do get into their first, like, real proper fight of the show. Again, it was meant to happen. This definitely feels like a natural quarrel to happen. Again, I would have liked a little bit more setup for my personal sakes. And definitely they do leave things all pretty bad for wear. Even when we cut over to the next day, Maddie is, just chopping onions for a snack, I guess, which I'm like, of all things to make for a snack, you make onions. And it's clear there's still some tension between them. It's very clear about that. Maddie heads over back to the firm, going for a way we never normally see. That'll come back into play in a second. For her purpose to go back to the document room, apparently she made up this lie where her dog just passed away, and she's getting sympathy points from the department head to let her in without an appointment. And she's about to get through to it until Olympia shows up, again being confused, like, I never know you had a dog. And Maddie manages to use this for her, saying that, well, you never asked about it. So, and me and I forgot the name, but I think it's Barb. I apologize, I got the wrong name for the department head. Like, they talk, they text sometimes, and she definitely tells them that, yeah, my dog's dead, and that you would have known about it if you asked. And thankfully, it manages to deter Olympia away, and while Maddie sadly has to leave the room, so Barb can help her grieve. And I'm like, yeah, there's always a silver lining to these sort of things. There's always a silver lining. I remember the scene before. Another scene I forget was I was forgetting we forgot something at the firm. We were forgetting something before we got to the fight. Was that Senior was given a document by Olympia saying that, hey, look, we got the smoking gun, so either you guys raise your settlement or we're going straight to trial on this one. And Senior's like, give us the night, let's come up with a better settlement offer, and we'll reconvene in the morning. And then another thing that Maddie noticed on her way in was that a bunch of the regular workers were shredding documents for some unknown reason. Again, we'll cut to that in a second. And then from there, I want to say, yeah, by the time Maddie does get permission to be in the documents room, she does get her hands on the 4 documents that they were looking for. She was looking for. Olympia and the rest of the team are with the client, and they get the big settlement offer from the firm, from the condominium. That's like, okay, we've heard what you said. We will honor this this deal that we will give anyone up to $300K in settlement if they can prove that they were infested with black mold from our buildings, and we will acknowledge that. And he agrees. He accepts the agreement, and it seems a little bit too, like, even for me, like, this is all too peachy watching. We still got 10 minutes left in this episode. There ain't no way we're wrapping it up here. There ain't nowhere. The tea's gone cold, sadly. And this coincides with the same time that Maddie overhears the assistants to the whole document center being ordered by one of the higher ups that apparently there's some paperwork that needs to be done right away, and it's for the firm that was not the firm. It was the condominium that the firm was representing, that apparently they just made a brand new LLC and they need to, like, expedite a lot of paperwork right now to get it done before the end of the day. And then Maddie puts the pieces together once she comes back to the rest of the team that they did a Texas two-step, which is basically a way of, there's a loophole in Texas where there's a judge out there, apparently, or there's like more leeway down there that they could possibly get some easy loopholes into, basically start a new LLC, switch over some of the assets over. So basically the condominium will not have any of the assets anymore. They don't have the financial capital anymore. That got transferred to the new LLC overnight. And apparently it cost, well, we'll get to that part in a second. But basically they did all this so that the settlement that the client is signing is basically worth nothing, because the person that he's making the agreement to has no money. So basically it means nothing. And also he has to completely drop the matter, so he cannot make a new lawsuit against the new condominium, because it's already too late. And by the time they inform Olympia and the others about that, it's already too late. He already signed the documents. It's already a done deal. So basically he lost. He lost the case. Well, not lost the case, but he basically signed away his right to possibly win this case. The client and Maddie have a scene together about the whole thing, and he's not totally mad about it. He's very chillaxed about it. I guess he was really more repentant that he spent so much time on this that he neglected his final moments with his wife. That maybe this was a way to, like, kind of come full circle, kind of like acknowledge that there's still certain things to do, and then that he needs to move forward finally. He does give Maddie one of the bird statues as like a symbol, a token of gratitude. He does also ask out Maddie, and she says politely no, using the whole excuse that, well, I'm not ready to date. I'm not ready. And again, honestly, I had no fault that this was going to happen. This definitely, Maddie, the core person she is, would never do that sort of thing. And I'm very happy that they went that route. It definitely kind of showcases her strength, that, she's still focused on the prize, but at the same time, she still remembers her values. Then I want to say Olympia has a scene with Elijah where she's incredibly pissed off at them for doing this sort of thing. And Elijah doesn't really deny what he did. Again, he's just doing his job. He's just following orders. But also at the end of the day, that he does admit he was kind of pissed about the whole thing. He was trying to get back at Olympia for basically stopping them from happening. And, he still wants them to happen. It's just right now they can't happen. And it sucks for him. And he decides that he's going to go to the Dallas office for a while, about a month, so he'll be back in time for Christmas, to kind of get away from Olympia, to kind of rejuvenate his mind, be in an environment that's not related to her, so that can help her out. That can help him out. And so he does so. We probably won't see him for a month, because I think he's recurring. I don't think he's not main cast member, so we get the same money on him. Olympia, also Maddie was outside the whole thing, not eavesdropping, but she also gets a signature from Julian, which that'll come back into play later. I know there's a scene between Sarah and Billy where Sarah does admit that she's not very comfortable expressing her emotions, but she does acknowledge Billy as a friend. However, she does warn him to never say that ever again, otherwise he'll be dead. But you know what? It is what it is on that front. You take the victories when you can. Then Maddie gets into the room with Olympia, does apologize for how things worked out today, and they're talking a bit more about just how how kind of shadeful this thing was. Apparently, the firm spent $4 million to expedite this entire thing happening, and had they just put in an extra $2 million, they would have basically paid off the whole settlement and then extra. But it goes to show that when people are rich, they don't want... It's not even about the money by the point. They just have a prideful thing that they don't want to admit they're wrong. That they still are going to maintain their right, and even though they're signing away, say, hey, that's not my corporation anymore. It's a different corporation. My corporation's still clean, so you can't blame me for anything. So it's a really shitty maneuver how things ended up with that, but it's still... It caused the motion of, just people are shitty, even Senior. The Senior came up with this whole idea, not caring about, and again, whether it's money or pride or just the business, who the heck really knows at this point, but he did what he did, and, he's not gonna feel bad about it. He got paid, he's gonna get paid his fair due, and, he did his job, he made his clients happy, and it just sucks the way how it ended up. And Olympia's not happy about it either. So it kind of gives them more credibility that maybe Olympia's not the bad person and all that. She is a tough person to be with, but it definitely does showcase a little bit that maybe she's not the bad guy after all. And even Maddie's, still playing it safe a little bit, decides to spruce up a truth. Hey, if you can't really trust your own, fellow direct peers and your boss, you might as well, confide in us, people that really do have your back in a corner. And she's a bit down on it, so Maddie might be making some moves of her own. Maddie then goes upstairs before she lifts the Senior, trying to kind of berate him off, and again, very much moxie to this relationship where Maddie can basically just say "fuck you" to him, and Senior's just I like that gumption, and I'm I don't understand this, I really don't. But Maddie decides to kind of use this as an opportunity to basically say, hey, look, I just want to remind you that I really do want to get the corporate law up at some point. So just if there's ever a ladder up, just keep me in mind. Keep me in mind. She also plays a little bit of the show gloaty for him, that commenting on his pictures of his past accomplishments, his past connections, and we'll get to more about that in a second. And before we go back home, Olivia gets one last visit from Julian, that, again, even though technically things didn't end up the way it was supposed to for Olympia, he does give her a little bit of, here's your secondary prize, which is basically the opportunity for her to basically destroy a lot of Senior's possessions. And again, there's some bonding here. There definitely is some laughter, some joy. Does that entirely mean they might get back together? Who the heck really knows? Again, anything could happen by this point in time. We return back to the house where Maddie's husband immediately just is begging for forgiveness. I'm so sorry for the way I acted. I totally misunderstood how you be feeling in this moment, and I didn't really take that into the credibility. Maddie does admit her faults as well. So again, the number one thing you should learn about a relationship: communication. Communication will lessen problems and build up strength between the partners. That's all my recommendation would be for that. And even though, like, yes, they're still going to focus on, like, trying to keep the grandson out of it more often than not to allow him to, like, still have a childhood, but still keep him involved in the big moments. Maddie was able to get her own discoverability without him. Again, like I said before, she got access to the documents that were redacted in the server computer, which has just a very basic signature. However, she was using these last 2 days as an opportunity to get the actual signatures for Olympia, for Julie, and for Senior. And now doing the comparison, it was Senior's signature that matches one of the documentations for the pharma case. So definitely now Senior is now in the prime motivated target of, like, between what he did today and, you know, having his name on this piece of paper, it definitely does not boast well that, like, Senior may have done this for his own beneficial gain or for not having the compassion he deserves. So Maddie decides to focus all of her attention now into getting Senior. But will that succeed? Will that not? Who the heck really knows yet? Because that was it for this week's episode of Matlock. Again, like I said before on the top, I still think this is a great episode. I will say right now this is probably my least favorite. Not to say it's bad. Again, just saying I did have some critiques about it. I will give them a more benefit of that of, like, giving Maddie more of an opportunity to, like, really flex some things, really, like, having to combine both the aspect of her lies with her actual things. I also, again, the Billy and Sarah thing, it was cute and tongue-cheek. It definitely was more character connection development, which, again, is very useful here. Olympia kind of being caught in the middle of, like, not really having the people she would assume to be on her side anymore on her side, and now kind of having to rely on the people she wouldn't initially anticipate to be teaming up with as a function, definitely does work on to kind of pivoting her character to a bit of a different direction. I'm very excited to see how that's going to go. But all in honesty, again, this was another great episode. It just definitely, the whole sudden turn things was it just wasn't for me. It really wasn't. But I do appreciate that it was useful for the episode at the cost of that little point. But with that all being said, I'm going to give this episode 1 3/4 thumbs up. I still really enjoyed it a lot. Let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode of Matlock? Let me know down below. I would love to hear your comments about it. As always, I would love to have a discussion with you about it. Please do. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the first season of Matlock. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our Matlock episode reviews. Right now, we're just doing Matlock. Been a little bit delayed. We also have After the Theater, which is another show we do here on ActionX, so you can go check that out. We just put out the Iron Man episode not too long ago. But if you don't care about Matlock, you're in luck. We'll be back this week, exactly on time, with the next episode review. I hope to God nothing else comes up, but I do believe that we're just going back into a straight run for the rest of the year. But again, I will keep you all updated. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. But until next time, please stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.